But first, in a shocking assault on faith, India's two most revered temples of shaken devotees trust at Sabrimala, years of systematic gold pilferage by temple officials and private jewelers reveal a betrayal that undermines centuries of devotion. In the meanwhile, Tirupati, remember at Tirupati as well, the discovery of toxic adulteration in the iconic Laddu Prasadam has left pilgrims aghast, questioning the sanctity of offerings they have trusted for generations. These scandals strike at the very core of believers' faith, leaving communities reeling over the exploitation of devotion for greed. This is the latest that's come in. Do remember, these are two stories that we've heard of for months now, but this is a big breakthrough coming in through the investigations. Let's talk about that in greater detail. It's a CNN News 18 exclusive. The SIT has completed its investigation in the Tirupati temple Prasadam adulteration case. As per sources, the probe agency has found massive adulteration in the ghee used for the sacred offering. According to this report, the purity of the Laddu Prasadam, considered holy by millions of devotees, was compromised on a large scale. The investigation points to systemic irregularities and deliberate adulteration, with the charge sheet expected to be filed soon. So this is the latest coming in. Do remember, this is something that angered devotees when this controversy first came to the fore. But now in this exclusive, we found out what the SIT has unearthed. SIT completing its investigation in the Prasadam adulteration case, and the probe agency has found massive adulteration in the ghee which is used to make the Laddu Prasadam. But let's talk about what the details are pointing to and what becomes extremely questionable here. Massive adulteration is what the SIT probe has found. A charge sheet will be filed soon. Up to 80% chemical use in the Tirupati Laddu sample. Now this is something that was contended for the longest time, but this is what the SIT probe has found. Up to 80% chemicals used in the Laddu that is served to the devotees, that is served to the gods. Barely any ghee was used to make the prasadam. That's another observation that's come to fore through the SIT probe. Delhi-based trader will be named for supplying chemicals. So that's one of the needles pointing towards this Delhi-based trader. There's also Bhole Baba Dairy that will be named for proving adulterated or providing adulterated products. And let's not forget the staff of board members. They too could face disciplinary action going forward. All of this as a result of the findings by the SIT team that was probing the entire controversy ever since it came to the fore. I do want to go across to Arunima and PV Ramana, my colleagues joining us on the broadcast. Arunima, to you first. Now that the SIT probe is pointing to all of these irregularities, something that was contested for the longest time, was being spoken of. There was a bit of a political clash that unfolded in the interim as well. Tell us about the key takeaways of what the SIT maintains and, most importantly, the action that could be taken next.
So there were two parts to the charges that were made when the Laddu row broke out. One was, of course, that faith of devotees was being played with. The prasadam that was given to devotees being offered to the deity was adulterated. That charge has found merit in the SIT investigation as per sources. SIT has found that there was barely any ghee that was used. In fact, the color, the texture, everything that we saw of the Tirupati Prasadam, and the fact that it was sold at the rate that it was, if you were using pure ghee and pure ingredients that go into the Prasadam, there was no way, as per SIT's investigators, that Prasadam could have been sold at the price that it was being sold. The reason that price could be given is because all the ingredients in question were adulterated. The ghee, there was barely any ghee, like I said. Instead of ghee, 80% chemical was being used. One of the suppliers of that chemical was based here in Delhi. He was arrested earlier, and about 2 months ago, he was taken into custody. Subsequent to his questioning, fingers pointed to the general manager, then general manager, procurement, and other officials from the board which was responsible for the prasadam. SIT shockingly has found that during sample testing, there is a process that is followed for the prasadam. So during the sample testing, whichever sample was rejected, those who were conspiring, including then GM procurement and other members, ensured that through a circuitous route, that prasadam came back for distribution. That was the level of conspiracy at stake here. However, the other important point that we must point out here is that there were also charges made that animal fat or animal waste was mixed with what was being labeled as ghee. DNA testing and scientific testing has been carried out by SIT as per sources, and they have not found that charge to be true. So while it is correct that the laddus were 80% chemical, adulterated. The charge of animal fat and animal waste has not found to be backed by evidence so far.
PV, which brings us to the question of what has happened so far. This is an allegation that came to the fore months ago, and we did see how TTD administration also blacklisted some of those suppliers, the dairy suppliers, who were essentially supplying ghee for the preparation of the Laddu Prasadam. Action had been taken, but how will the SIT probe now take the story forward, and what action can be expected going forward?
So as of now, the Laddu Prasadam, daily thousands of lakhs of Laddus will be prepared for distribution of Prasadam and as well as to sell the Prasadam in Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam itself. It means lakhs of liters, lakhs of kgs of ghee will be used to prepare Prasadam. In this Prasadam, the ghee which was used is completely adulterated, and as Arunima mentioned, the SIT report clearly mentioning that 80% was adulterated ghee and remaining was, and of course, they have mentioned some numbers also. And moreover, is the best part of this entire thing is instead of earlier there was allegations of using animal fat in the Tirumala Prasadam. So it is in fact it is completely it is completely, the SIT revealed that it is completely false, because it's related to not only it's a financial scam, it's related to the crores of the devotees of the entire country. In fact, Lord Venkateswara Swami's devotees. In fact, so the best part is it's a chemicals, and earlier there was a allegation is that it was used only vegetable oils like palm oil, vegetable based ghee, vegetable based fat. So the best part is that the animal fat was not used in this adulterated ghee. And moreover, the other thing is that there is almost 250 crore rupees of financial scam. We can consider it as a 250 crores rupees of financial scam. The main person who is a kingpin in this entire thing is Mr. Subramanyam, who is the GM procurement in this entire case. Recently, he was arrested. Based on his statement only, based on his information, the entire scam was revealed. As Arunima mentioned, how the adulterated ghee was how it was again, whatever the days they found to get the access for the adulterated ghee to the TTD. This is one of the part. And moreover, some of the authorities, like earlier chairman of the PA, arrested, and the main company, the private limited, person and managing director was of this company. Some recently, Subramanyam was recently has given the entire information. What is the was taken as the right? We have some information is that, and as adding to Arunima, is that price of rupees of 5 grams gold coins, 50 grams gold, 5 grams gold coin, 50 grams silver. These kind of small bribes he was taken, and he played by taking that. He was played with the sentiments of the crores of devotees in the entire country, crores of devotees across the globe, and it is related to the sentiments of the devotees, because
so dairy company officials, of course, are going to be at the receiving end of all the complaints that have been filed for the longest time. Now that the SIT is pointing clearly to how adulterated ghee indeed was used in preparing these laddus, Arunima, which takes us or brings us back to the question of how long had this been going on for? Because if we just look at the political aspect of things, we've seen the TDP initiate the controversy, pin the blame onto the previous YSRCP government of not initiating action against some of the reports back in the day. But when did it all begin? Take us through the brief timeline here that's come out.
Yes, so this was when the YSRCP government was in power in Andhra Pradesh. The conspiracy, as per SIT probe, went on for, I think, 3 to 4 years. And I think it also clashes with the same period that Raman also pointed out, when GM Procurement, who's turning out to be the main suspect, he was in office. Subsequently, he was removed from that post. But by then, faith of crores of devotees had already been played with. And what is even more worrying, and SIT, even though the mandate it was given was to look at the Tirupati Laddu Prasadam, it is likely to recommend, because what we are being given to understand, SIT will file a report before the court by way of a charge sheet. It will also send a separate recommendation, likely through the state government, where departmental action is likely to be recommended against a lot of board members and their personal staff, and also highlighting that these same dairy which are now Bhole Baba Dairy being one, Vaishnavi Dairy being another one. These dairies are also supplying quote unquote ghee to a number of other temples in that vicinity as well. So while the focus is on Tirupati, Tirumala, there could be faith of others at stake as well, and that's what the SIT could recommend to the state government, that please get an audit done of all the temple premises where these dairies are supplying, because we suspect that this problem of adulteration is systemic. It is not limited to one temple, not limited to one person. Like I said, rejected samples of prasadam, taking a circuitous route and coming back. That is the extent of conspiracy SIT has found, and they are worried that it could be affecting more temples in the southern part of the country.
And this is not the only problem or the single controversy that's currently staring at the temple officials and everyone else involved. PV, thank you for joining us with those details. Arunma, stay on with us. Let's talk about these other set of revelations that have come to the fore in the Sabrimala temple gold loot case. Now, the Enforcement Directorate has uncovered systemic pilferage of sacred artifacts spanning several years. Raids across Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka have recovered incriminating records, including several documents, official papers that deliberately showed gold artifacts as copper. Documents seized reveal invoices and payments made to private jewelers for gold extraction between 2019 and 2024, putting the TDB or the Travancore Devaswam Board in the dock. The ED has frozen properties of the accused worth 1.3 crore rupees and seized 100-gram gold bar from a Chennai-based firm. Now, the ED said that the scam involved misappropriation of temple offerings and systemic irregularities. Going across to Arunma for a quick update on this. Arunma, once again, the problem really lies on multiple levels. We've obviously seen how the questions that are now being posed to both temple officials and some of these private jewelers. Tell us what the Enforcement Directorate has found out about the alleged collusion between these officials and private jewelers.
So, when the Sabrimala probe began, the sense was that it was only gold pilferage, that gold artifacts were being taken away, gold was being extracted from it by those who were part of the conspiracy, and the money was subsequently being laundered away. But the ED, after carrying out searches at 21 locations 48 hours ago, has come up with some sensational revelations. They are saying that not just gold artifacts, but even offerings that were being made by devotees to the deity, that was also being pilfered away, and they have reasons to believe that properties worth crores, gold bars, etc., were the forms in which this ill-gotten wealth was being laundered. I'm just going to quote to you from the findings of the Enforcement Directorate. ED searches recovers mahazars and official records which were used to deliberately show that gold artifacts were in fact made of copper. Mahazar is like an affidavit, it's like an official document which notes down, it is stamped and it is sealed, it's a legal document. So even those legal documents were forged as per the ED's initial assessment to show that the gold artifacts were made of copper. Then they have found records within the TD board to show more paperwork about invoices that were made, about receipts that were attached, all of which shows that there was a systemic corruption angle that was there to the manner in which Sabrimala affairs were being run. At least one property which ED believes was bought from this ill-gotten wealth worth 1.3 crores that has been already seized. And there's a 100-gram gold bar that they have recovered from the premises of a Chennai jeweler called Smart Creation. They believe Smart Creation and other jewelers in Bengaluru and Chennai were the front for a pilferage of gold and then subsequently laundering.
Thank you, Arunma, for joining us with all those details, piecing that entire story for us and giving us a quick background into where and how it all began. I do want to bring in Rahul Ishwar into the conversation. Rahul Ishwar, the first big question being asked is, why were devotees treated in this way, in multiple ways, be it the prasadam or the loot? Looting the temple of gold, deity gold, is something that devotees are saying is unacceptable, and collusion on multiple levels. What do you make of the recoveries made by the Enforcement Directorate, documents that they've now seized, and how it's all pointing to this was going on for years, 2019 to 2024.
Absolutely. As a Hindu activist and devotee, we are all pained by what happened, whether it is Tirupati Laddu, whether it's the gold, haste and plunder in Sabrimala. And Honorable Kerala High Court has gone on record in writing